Of the same one's a prize on your hand. Hold tight, don't lose your way, chasing for the glory to the end. Don't run, be the one, bring all your dreams to the glorious kingdom. Are you hearing the voice of Seth call your name? Lost in the storm, hold your face and sword. Go fight a secret, I win this war. We rise up higher, reach for the sky, hold on to your weapons with pride. We rise up higher, conquer the ark, get ready to fight for your life. We rise up, climb on, choose the highest ground of the pyramid of life. Let the spirit get you high, 'cause we are the kings, we are the queens. We will rise up to the top. Stand up, don't draw in the dust. The land of the sand knows the answer in your head. Hold tight, it's worth the try, chasing for the glory in the fight. Don't run, you're the one, bring all your dreams to the glorious kingdom. Are you hearing the voice of Seth call your name? Lost in the storm, hold your face and sword. Go fight a secret, I win this war. We rise up higher, reach for the sky, hold on to your weapons with pride. We rise up higher, conquer the ark, get ready to fight for your life. We rise up, climb on, choose the highest ground of the pyramid of life. Let the spirit get you high, 'cause we are the kings, we are the queens. We will rise up to the top. Even when you fall, sticks and stones may break your bones, but you are stronger than the heaviest waves. The earthquake won't shake you, 'cause you are the king, you are the queen, you are the truth of the land. You rise up higher, reach for the sky, hold on to your weapons with pride. You rise up higher, conquer the ark, get ready to fight for your life. You rise up, climb to the highest ground of the pyramid of life. Let the spirit get you high, 'cause you are the king, you are the queen. You will rise up to the top. Stand up, don't drown in the dust. The land of the sand one's a prize on your hand. Hold tight, don't lose your way, chasing for the glory to the end. Don't run, be the one, bring all your dreams to the glorious kingdom. Are you hearing the voice of Seth call your name? Lost in the storm, hold your face and sword. Go fight a secret, I win this war. We rise up higher, reach for the sky, hold on to your weapons with pride. We rise up higher, conquer the ark, get ready to fight for your life. We rise up, climb on, choose the highest ground of the pyramid of life. Let the spirit get you high, 'cause we are the kings, we are the queens. We will rise up to the top.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chiscool Gaming, and today we're casting Ark of Osiris League. Mimi versus OV. And this whole scene is a trick. It's not just me today. Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Here he is. It's Dragothian. The two of us we'll be casting Ark of Osiris League. And yeah, what do you think of the new artwork? Do you like the frames? Do you like the lightning? I'm liking it. Drago, are you hyped for this match, man?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I'm definitely excited. Had a great match, co-casting with Bulbaritos last time, and you were in that match, crazily enough. So it's just small world kind of situations, but really looking forward to this match, Mimi versus OV. I'm really looking forward to seeing which team is going to come out on top, because at the end of the day,
yeah, I'm hyped for today's match. OV, two-time champion. Mimi bringing in slightly more power than OV, but obviously it's not about the power. It's about the way that you play the game. And honestly, so much of Ark of Osiris League is about being in the right places at the right times. But my gosh, if you were watching the matchup that I was playing in earlier, you know that it's about a little bit more than just being in the right places. There's some stuff you can do that is just really savage with how you position your troops and the way that you actually fight the encounter. So I'm learning a lot playing this Ark League, and I'm excited to cast this match, watching a two-time champion get contested. Let's go maybe to an in-game view here so we can get a look at some of the recent scores, talk about that, and talk a little bit about this match that we're about to watch. Okay, so getting a quick look at the scoreboard here. And by the way, if you are in the live stream chat, make sure that you go and fill out the poll. Who are you rooting for in this matchup? Taking a look at the matches that happened earlier today, Black-Pink beat the Eclipse family, 45K to 33. Blackjack took on Song, and what a close match that was. Wow, Song winning by hundreds of points? Couple hundred points there? Sheesh, that's close.
Yeah, 250.
Then 1V versus TR. That's the match I played. 42.5 to 33.5. Nav took on the Toxic Tigers, conquering them by just under 3,000 points. I mean, these are close matches, is what I'm trying to say. There's no big blowouts at this point. They're all very contentious fights where one or two arcs swinging one way or another makes the difference. But let's talk about Mimi and OV. What do you think is noteworthy, Dragothian, about these teams and things we should know going into the match?
So I got a little bit of insight into both teams. I mean, I think most people have some pretty decent insight on their own for OV, obviously being prior champions. The only alliance right now having two on their alliance banner for Osiris League wins. So they're kind of a big deal when it comes to Osiris League playoffs, which is exactly what we're doing season 5 right now. But then Mimi on the other side, new up-and-comers, like you said. But at the same time, it is still an older kingdom, Kingdom 175, and there is a particular set of people in that alliance that are huge players. So, I mean, I want to say that OV's got the experience, Mimi's got the juice, if that makes sense. They've got the extra thing that you're looking for when you're trying to see if there's a team that can topple a juggernaut like OV from a strategy standpoint. And I think that really is what it's going to come down to, is strategy. Is OV's tried and true tested strategy going to be what we see here? Is it going to be a little bit of a different flavor from OV, or are we going to see Mimi set the pace? I'm interested to see it with you.
Yeah. I mean, they are both in Group A, which is a very difficult group to play in, with OV 1008, Mimi, and ST46. If we get a look at Mimi's record here, they did have one loss leading up to this point, whereas OV is 6-0. Their average score is 67,700 compared to OV's 65,700. Which is kind of interesting. Maybe they had one match where they just had a really high score. Is that what happened? Yes, it is. So one of their matches, they won 104,697 to 0. Literally 0. So that's a total shutout on their way in. But who was their one loss to here? It
was last week.
Ah.
Yeah, it was last week. So,
right on top.
Mimi
I had scrolled down there. Yeah.
Mimi lost to 1008.
Okay, so Mimi's really on the ropes. They have to win.
And a nail biter, 300 points, 400 points.
This is a tough one.
Yeah.
Not only do they have to win, but they're going against the 2-time champion OV. Yikes.
This is a must-win for Mimi because, again, two losses pretty much put you out, I think, for the most part, unless ST46 comes up clutch and beats 1008. And like we were just looking at right now, 1008 defeating Mimi by only 400 points. So, and 1008 is not a slouch team at all. Mimi is definitely looking like they can contend at least. And, OV is definitely the favorite, I think, here. I think the betting plays that out pretty solidly. And then, of course, being prior champions 2 seasons in the past 4 that we've had, they've won 50% of the Osiris League championships. So that's a big deal. But Mimi has a chance. I mean, they just literally lost the last second with 1008 out provisioning, I believe, is what ended up winning that match for 1008. Otherwise,
Wow.
Mimi would have secured that victory.
That's so amazing. And both of these teams, 1008 and OV, are from the same kingdom, which plays into this because you've got to think there's information sharing between these teams about how Mimi plays. At the same time, I mean, OV and 1008 are probably running the same playbook. So, there's some definite advantages for both sides, I think, in having information you might not normally have about what the other team is going to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think, again, 1008's been in the playoffs before. So, I mean, they were already a solid team. And then after moving to 52 there, and I'm assuming keeping the majority of their team intact for the most part, sharing that playbook from OV, I think, is something that they were looking to do when they moved there. So I would foresee this being a fairly close match. I know we've seen OV in the past really rely on the middle game, winning those Arc of Osiris's and quickly capturing them. That's been pretty much their standard, tried and true. We're just going to out-arc you, and that's our 15,000 points. And in the meantime, we're not going to lose many structures, and we're going to provision pretty well. So that's usually been the playbook, and it's been good enough to win half the playoffs.
So here's a question. Do you know, I don't remember exactly when 1008 migrated into Kingdom 1052. Do you remember about when that was? Is this the first Arc League that they're playing together in the same kingdom as 1008 and OV?
I want to say it is, but again, I can't say that with certainty. It's been hard to keep up with the over 1,500 kingdoms that we have in the game now.
Yeah, there's a lot of kingdoms, man. It's hard to keep up.
It is. It really is. I mean, and when we're looking at, and we're talking about Realm of Horus, right, Chisco? So there's 8 groups here. And, you were talking about earlier how Group A is a very kind of murderer's row of alliances. We're looking at some of the other groups. I mean, goodness, you've got Group C with some really high-end alliances. Group D, we already highlighted before, having 3 or 4 major alliances that could have gone the distance. Group E, really having a prior champion, PX34, with 0 wins right now. Absolutely crazy. I mean, there's so many different groups here that are looking very, very solid. Even group, G that we just saw this morning, 1V, TR, DKV, OPV, all, again, solid alliances. So, I mean, this realm in particular has been fun to watch so far. And that's why a lot of our matches have been coming from Realm of Horus, just because there's been so many prior winners that are getting either taken out early or having struggles early. And then as the teams that used to be in Horus have started to migrate towards later kingdoms and greener pastures, some of those are starting to see some heavy defeats. Like we saw V636 last week. They lost their first match. Nobody saw that coming anywhere close to coming, and they lost their first match. That was one of the other ones that we could have casted this week at this time slot. But OV, to me, is the standard. When you think of like your prototypical, this alliance is about Osiris League, that to me is OV. So when we see OV with a really solid matchup coming in against what could be a dethroner, we got to watch it.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I mean, 1052, they are probably, look, I'm not in that kingdom, but I would say they probably prioritize Osiris League over other things. So I'm eager to see them battle against Mimi. And we got to get into this match now, but I want to talk about something else in just a moment here about sort of consolidation of teams and migration of teams across realms. But let's jump into the match.
Let's do it.
And get this started. I got to back out of the Osiris League screen, make my way back in, hit the watch button, and... I got to go all the way out. Just kidding. Be right there. Okay. Here we go. Into the match. Watch. Enter. All right. The stats. 4.9 billion power for Mimi to the 4.5 of OV. The combatants on display. 2 minutes and 20 seconds till the match begins. Teams are now porting in. The OV team members now highlighted on the screen. And look at the wait. 0 Ark of Osiris score is the flower of. I wonder.
I'm not sure.
Have they not scored any arcs? Highlighted at 0 arcs.
That can't be right?
That can't be right. Pororo with 198 million kill score and a 13,400 provision score on the screen there. Wow. That can't be in a single match.
No, it's not. I mean, some of those are averages. I mean, I saw a 1,200 score for somebody capturing the arc, being the arc leader. So that's obviously impossible. So, yeah, those are some weird numbers. But I will say, looking forward to seeing what both of these teams do. The start, obviously, they're really going to be focusing on capturing those obelisks very quickly so they can get teleported in very quickly, so they can in turn start rallying quickly. That's a big deal. Obviously, positioning for the Desert Altar, I'm looking forward to seeing if and who makes that a priority. We've seen multiple matches this season alone where we've seen some go heavy, and some wait and then go heavy and then take the victory. So there is no one right way, but I'm looking to see which way these teams decide to go for both Desert Altars on the top and bottom lane, and who can hold and who cannot.
Yeah, we see, by the way, I was highlighting on screen that Slouty is front and center.
Yeah.
The leader of OV. He's been interviewed on the official Rise of Kingdoms channel. Mm-hmm. And on the other side, Mimi is sitting at 554.
Like I said, there's some big boy players over there. Big girl players,
power.
Maybe.
Wow, that's a lot of power. 10.8 billion kill points. I mean, also both alliances have the Held the Zig star. 2 for OV, 1 for Mimi. This is going to be a really exciting match, quite frankly. And, as this match begins, and as we watch all of the rallies start to fire off and things march places, dude, I want to talk about the concentration of power in Kingdoms, because when we were looking at the leaderboard earlier, and by the way, the teams are now off to the races. When we were looking at the leaderboard earlier, there are so many Kingdoms that have multiple teams in these playoffs.
Yeah, I think that we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. I think that teams and kingdoms and alliances are really starting to organize themselves based off of being alliances based, that especially with the World of Alliances mode for KVK now, right? They're starting to organize themselves based off of game mode, and we're seeing it affect the current season 5, where we've seen teams that normally blow other teams out showing up with a 0 because they were so busy in KVK they could not waste the hour. They needed that hour to defend a major choke point inside their KVK. They needed to be attacking or pressing the initiative in their KVK, and they just couldn't spare the hour. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal for a kingdom. And then you have these other kingdoms like, again, 52. Even your previous kingdom 75, we've got 254 now, obviously having multiple alliances consistently in the playoffs. There's multiple kingdoms here that are really starting to have to choose. Do I want to be an Osiris League kingdom with a lot of Osiris League teams, or do I want to be a KVK focused kingdom and we'll have some fun in Osiris League, but I don't expect a victory? So that's the key here. That's really the key.
Yeah. At the start of this match, a couple things are happening that are maybe noteworthy. 3 outpost rallies in progress, 2 for the side of blue, 1 for the side of red, which is either a tactic to move some troops downfield, but I would argue kind of a poor one, because the capacity of an outpost is only 500,000. So if you have a 330,000 march, somebody's getting the short end of the stick with a small march. So I'm inclined to believe that they're either really running those rallies, or maybe just trying to send some folks downfield to do disruption of caravanners.
I think they're going to be for Desert Altar pushes. That's going to be my opinion. I mean, you're looking at your screen right here. Lots of marches heading towards the direction of that top lane, the Mimi side Desert Altar. There's a rally from Nana, going that way with a good 20 marches behind it. I'm looking though, and I'm seeing something positive from Mimi that I wouldn't have expected, and that's the fact that they took both of their obelisks before OV did, and I've never really seen that. So that's a good kind of thing to look at as we get started off. That means Mimi will be able to teleport in just a little bit quicker on that bottom lane than OV, which means they should be able to at least control that field area. And with the Desert Altar on the bottom lane being for OV, that could mean a difference in being able to capture it or not.
That's an interesting point. I mean, for a team that really, I think, historically has shown a real value for precision, the fact that Mimi beat them to the obelisks is sort of interesting and unusual. Also, this Slouty rally now breaking had some non-cavalry in it, but that doesn't matter. The rally got to where it wanted to go.
Yep.
Okay. And then, boom, this rally broke as well. I mean, I think we're likely to see a lot of pressure onto the altar at the start for both teams. I don't think we're going to see a scaring contest is what I'm trying to say.
No. Now, I will say at the bottom lane, so just kind of peeking at the different lanes, you have Mimi around their altar on the top lane, 1 minute and 20 seconds until these things open up and pop. OV posturing very strongly to organize below it. But on the bottom lane, OV doing something similar, but already pressing the open field, which means that, again, it's going to be very difficult for Mimi to go through what will be effectively an OV chainsaw between them and their Desert Altar. And even if they end up actually ninja grabbing that Desert Altar on the bottom lane, because of all the open field fighting that OV will be able to basically do for free for Mimi to go through that group of marches, it's going to be very difficult for Mimi unless they can commit a ton more troops to it to actually hold that structure. We got 40 seconds left.
Several things that are noteworthy here. First of all, I think you can see exactly what Dragothian was saying playing out, where OV has gotten right on top of this Desert Altar, which is going to be to their advantage. Jadwiga sitting in tow, hanging out behind. I'm a little surprised Mimi players haven't noticed there's a Jad right in the ranks. They'll probably figure that out as it gets closer to the altar and try to take out that garrison captain. But OV did a really nice job here creating space between where the Mimi players were and the altar itself, although honestly, Mimi's looking like they got a lot of force over here and are going to be able to push right in to the Desert Altar. I did not expect them to be able to do that. So they did a really good job maneuvering downfield when they needed to be there. Although OV with the grab on many things except their own Shrine of War, they did get the Mimi side Desert Altar, and that Jadwiga captain I was pointing out earlier is now the captain. Ooh, you got to be on the lookout for those captains hanging out in the back. Because if you don't snipe them, now you've got to swarm your way through. They've got their Jadwiga that they presumably will have captain over here, trying to swarm this thing down as well. I mean, you put everything you can on top of that, although only 12 marches can be hitting a structure at a time.
On the bottom lane, I know you're looking at the top lane right now. On the bottom lane, it's the exact opposite. OV deciding and being able to hold this structure with an Ethelfled primary. Obviously not the idea, but it's working. They're working through Mimi's marches. Mimi's still sending a few more marches, but unfortunately, those are only arriving late because they're just mixed troop marches like a Honda, like a Trajan, like an infantry march like Guan, another Trajan coming behind. So OV is able to, it looks like, hold and clear the field here, but there is a lot of Mimi left. There's still time for these guys to at least take the structure. It's got 45 seconds left. It does have a Xeno inside now.
Yeah, Xeno was really a very strong garrison in this situation against a swarm, and the YSS is perhaps the more important portion of that, offering on the 4th skill a bunch of shielding when you get low. Also, 30% counterattack damage is really, really savage if you can keep that altar full. And it looks like OV is doing a really good job. And I even noticed them bring a backup captain into the altar in the middle of this tussle. So here comes a rally, however, from Mimi, but it's cavalry. And OV is all over that. They said, oh my gosh, XYC. Okay, time to swarm. There's the swarm on the rally. If that rally is not completely full, it is going to be in some serious trouble. And as I'm sure you saw from the match you were casting earlier today, a rally that is perhaps a little bit better in this context will be a Pakal Herald. A lot less swarmable.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say, so this is I've been peeking around the map while you were giving us the rundown on the Desert Altars, and I will say I've seen quite a few Mimi XY William rallies, not XY Chandra, not XY Minna, by the way, with the new museum buffs being a possible rally combination now. It's mostly XY William now, and I don't know if that's because of the march speed or because of the AoE damage or the defense debuffs that he provides for the swarmers. But as you can see, that XY mana did go down, and now we're moving along and seeing OV pushing the Shrine of War while Mimi is already going to the middle with 4 minutes and 19 seconds left.
I love this Pakal Herald rally from Mimi on the Shrine of War right now, right before the middle fight. 4 minutes and 11 seconds, 10 seconds now till the mid fight, and it's under a lot of pressure. They're getting some reins to that Shrine of War, which they're doing on their way to the mid-fight, which is a good recovery. They jumped back up from red to yellow there. I mean, they were really in some serious danger. However, it does look like Mimi has a bunch of marches that are low health coming in, looking to reset those marches by moving forward rather than backward from the altar defense. And that way they can go all the way home after, I guess, taking the trip downfield and at least doing a little bit of damage to the Shrine of War. And quite frankly, I know these marches are low, but the debuffs are nice, and it might be enough to tip over this Shrine of War. I don't know.
It's going to be close. It's definitely going to be close. I will say, OV continuing to push the outside lane, obviously having that Sky Altar on the bottom lane in conjunction with the two that they're already supposed to have. So, I mean, they're looking very strong from a points per minute perspective. 740 points per minute now in favor of OV, over 380 for Mimi. And that's right before 3 minutes before this arc is to spawn. OV coming in pretty hard, getting the middle team ready to rock and roll. I see Trajans. I see a lot of XY Williams still. I see some Guans, which are always fun to see. Nebu in the middle. So the right marches are in the middle for OV. Checking the Mimi side. Lots of Saladins, XYs, Guan, lots of XYs. A few Trajans, but I'm also seeing quite a few non-maxed out marches, meaning they've taken some damage somewhere, but they're in the middle anyway. They say, you know what? We've done some fighting. Let's go ahead and wrap up in the middle. And that's what they're going to do. So right now, they're right beside the Temple Chisco. It's 2 minutes, 30 seconds left. OV likes to kind of position themselves favorably early. So we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, I think both sides have about even numbers here. Mimi is stacking up really nicely. OV's got a little bit more of a spread out cluster, although they're condensing now. Looks like in 2 minutes, the Ark will spawn, so we've got to get a brawl really soon here.
I mean, this Shrine of War on the bottom lane on Mimi's side, it needs to be addressed. It's been reinforced a few times, I think, without Mimi really kind of knowing it. I think they swarmed that Herald Pakal down and thought they were fine, but a few OV marches, I believe, have kind of popped in there without them knowing. And unless this is reinforced, I mean, they got marches going through around it. They may lose that Shrine of War. Mimi might. They do get their Sky Altar back finally, which is good. But again, they want those marches in the middle. So I think OV has done exactly the job that they wanted to do, and that was to distract those marches that would be normally going to the middle out to the outside lane. Those are basically out of the fight at this point. That's a 3 minute march at least. If they get their marches back right now, which they won't, that's going to be another minute to get back to their city. So I think OV is looking very, very good to take this arc. Now, Mimi is continuing to pour so much in.
Teleport's possible downfield for Mimi.
Oh, I see
If Mimi teleports right now, she's 500 million power. Oh, man, if Mimi had been able to teleport right there.
Yep.
I mean, 500 million power. She could have started to zero their players. I really think that could have made a difference.
It could have. Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, well, an opportunity there. Carefully covered up by OV before the mid-brawl, which is happening now. Mystical Formation and War Drums, the play, it looks like, for both sides. So playing with a huge defense and attack boost. And we've got Simplify Graphics turned off, so let's let the fireworks fly. I hope you like red numbers, because that's basically all we're watching right now. is those numbers flying on the screen. And, you know, it takes some serious work to actually manage your marches in the middle of this sort of a brawl. Forget trying to manage one at a time. I mean, you got to have everybody targeting the same thing or you're just going to lose them.
That's very true. And just wait until somebody pops Heaven's Grace, then it's red and green.
Yeah, oh
just
my gosh.
a green and red sheet of numbers above what's actually happening beneath it. To touch on your obelisk point, I think that would have been a great play for that Flower of Mimi player to jump in and disrupt some things. I don't know if they necessarily would have been able to just zero the cities, considering most of them are 120 million plus power. That's nothing to sneeze at, but could have definitely stopped the reinforcements from happening correctly, could have killed all the provisioners on the bottom lane. I mean, so many choices open up when you get to go on the other side. And with 500 million power, I mean, you're basically untouchable. So they can sit there and zero themselves in your city all day and be just fine. But that middle fight's looking juicy. I'm seeing a lot of OV marches go back alongside Mimi. So this looks pretty even-ish.
Yeah, you know, OV had a nice early grab, moved it very slightly downfield. Slouty now the carrier, moving that arc. I don't actually know exactly what march has the thing, but it is moving.
Is it? I don't even know if
it
it's
is moving very slowly. Could be his infantry.
It is.
I don't know. It's creeping.
It's an Amanatori. That's what
Amanatori, the carrier, emerging from the cluster with only one player from Mimi working on him. That Quan Herald is doing work. Oh, man.
OV buzz.
We got an MVP over here. They're going to take out the carrier with what would have been a breakaway, but it ultimately doesn't matter, I think, because at the end of the day, OV did win that mid-fight. They've got control of the field at this point, and now they've got control of the arc. So what do? Do they hold it? Do they score it? What's the play?
You know, I'm starting to look around, obviously, with the middle being almost decided for the most part. I don't see anybody coming really too hard on the bottom lane from Mimi, although they're starting to organize together. But I think that's more to be a desert altar push than it is to be an arc, play. Because, again, look at this. OV has all 4 altars also in addition to the arc. So that's a big deal that needs to be addressed by Mimi. And again, this is what happens to so many people who have been on the opposite side of OV. They're like, okay, well, we lost the arc. Not that big of a deal. Let's regroup. Let's get together. Oh, wait, we've lost all of our altars. So that's kind of been the struggle for a lot of players that have played against OV. So we're looking at getting their altars back now finally. But again, looking at the points per minute, 470 points per minute for OV versus only 150 points for Mimi. That doesn't matter that they lost those altars back to Mimi. They're not getting any points for them from another 2 minutes.
Yeah, OV is in a really commanding position. I mean, you're able to prioritize between capturing buildings and capturing arcs, but you can't do both at the same time. And here we are with OV doing both
exactly that
at the same time. It's not surprising that the 2-time champion has their timing down.
And just as we say that, they take the Sky Altar on the bottom lane again. And that was probably a push that was organized about a minute ago whenever the arc was secured, has now arrived. And Mimi, I was just casting 1v. Mimi has decided to now pull their marches down finally. But being able to traverse the map quicker, it's not an actual possibility. It's just that they plan quicker. That's why OV seems to be in the right position at the right time, because they're already planning what to do in the next 2 minutes right now. Like what they're going to do. What they're doing right now is what's going to actually happen in 2 minutes. They know that. They're not reacting. They're being proactive. They're addressing the needs of the future, not the needs of the present.
Man, what does Mimi do here to flip the momentum?
Well, I mean, right now they need to kind of settle their base. It looks like exactly what they're doing. I mean, right now they have most of, if not all of their structures, but again, they're not ticking points yet. On the top lane, it's looking a little bit more solid for Mimi than the bottom lane is. The bottom lane is just really having a hard time keeping that Sky Altar in the blue color. A lot of it's continuing just to go red one time after the other. There's just relentless pressure from a rally standpoint from OV against that Sky Altar, and they just can't refresh quick enough while also dedicating stuff to the middle to win that fight. And that's always the struggle of anybody who's facing a well-oiled machine like an OV, like a 60 GT, like the winners of the past that have really been ahead of the game when it comes to organizing your players ahead of time. Like I said earlier, it's not what you're doing right now. It's what you're going to be doing in 2 minutes that needs to be done right now.
Yeah, it does seem like OV is really fully on the offense here. And the advantage of playing on the enemy side of the battlefield is that if they feel so pressured, they can't go and assault your structures. And then you kind of can pull some of the defenses you would have held back and put even more on offense. And it really snowballs in your favor. Man, Shrine of War in trouble as well. Bunch of folks coming in to hit this thing. We've got the Zenobia Garrison, which is a solid choice. I mean, Mimi does own the OV Shrine of War, so there is a little bit of structure trading. In fact, technically, it's in favor of Mimi right now, but the problem is the points per minute because they've only just captured some things, and they're still down on points per minute.
Yep, that's exactly right. And I will say this, too. So we got 5 teleports available for Mimi. There's 1, 2, 3, 4... 5 cities inside of their main base. So either those are all provisioners, which is possible, or somebody needs to teleport and with a quickness because they should be up front. You can teleport, guys. Now in Ark of Osiris and Osiris League play, you can teleport while being on the field. Make sure you're using those teleports as quickly as possible. That's always my recommendation. And I will say, again, like you said, the map is a little more blue than it was a little bit earlier. So again, you asked me earlier, what do they need to do to turn this thing around? Well, that's exactly it. They need to be taking structures away from their opponents and keeping the structures that they've got, but also at the right time because it's still 9.5 minutes with this arc, and OV still has it, and they're probably going to hold on to it for just a little bit.
Well, actually, they just capped it.
Or not.
Yeah, or not. Yeah, so they just capped the arc. 8 minutes till arc spawn. That signals to me
they're ready,
that they are in position, right? They use that time to get in a position for when they think refreshing their troops is going to be favorable for their timing to go to middle and have a really strong mid fight. That's when you time your sort of arc turn in. So I think there's a real advantage to being able to set the pace of the fight with that first arc. And now I'll be very curious to see if Mimi can shift the momentum swing in their favor, even though they are necessarily playing to the timing of OV. They don't have a choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically an even points per minute game, 50 points advantage for Mimi, but that's going to eliminate itself here just shortly. And also, everything blue right now is under heavy assault by OV as well. And conversely, the Desert Altar on the bottom lane is under decently heavy assault from Mimi, but I think OV will hold that. Now, here's the question. You got 7 minutes until the next arc spawns. I think you're exactly right. OV took that arc and captured it when they were ready, and that was basically 2 seconds after I said that they would probably hold it. So with that being said, we've got 7 minutes until this arc spawns. Positioning is critical here. If you push now, you better either be ready to take it right away or be ready to pull back and reposition to the middle, because if you just sit there, send a rally with a little bit of support and let it sit there and ache and groan on that structure for 5 minutes, you're going to be out of position. You're going to not have the reinforcements you need for the middle, and ultimately you're going to lose the next arc. So that's going to be critical for Mimi to make sure that they do whatever they're going to do right now in the next 3 minutes and then prepare for being in the middle.
Speaking of which, 6 minutes till middle.
Mm-hmm.
It's really soon. I mean, I know, 6 minutes. It seems far away. Okay. But they're on their way in OV, man.
Way. Yeah.
They're on their way. Look, 6 minutes it's like, if you're on the arc plan, you want to be there first. And OV's on the way. I mean, look, they've been offensive on the structures the whole time, so maybe they're just not worried about having to defend as much. If they go to mid now, they can get in position early. And Mimi, I mean, are they too early? Are they giving Mimi time now to go take some structures by going to mid literally like 6 minutes and they're there?
If you can hold your structures at home, you're never too early. And that's the key. Right now,
they?
Well, I'm seeing right now Mimi was positioned for a major advance on their structures from OV that never came. So now, like, if you look at the bottom lane on the Sky Altar, there's 30 marches, marching back to cities now because they were positioned around the sky altar to quickly defend and then go to the middle, and it never came. So now, effectively, even though OV didn't even send a rally with a push, they've effectively done it anyway because Mimi was sitting there waiting for it to happen. So now they've got to go home and refresh and still do the refresh and go to the middle game, and that's put them behind. I see a Mehmed primary, by the way, on the field for Mimi. I think I saw that somewhere. Where's it at?
Attila Chandragupta rally. Really unexpected.
Yeah. I don't know where that came from. I saw it in KVK quite often, and usually it had to do with Heroic Anthem cavalry buffs and how strong they were, but it just never worked out the way that I think people wanted it to. If you're going to use Attila, you have to use Takeda. That's just the way it is. Those are two commanders that are tied to the hip, and if you're doing that, it's just so that it doesn't get swarmed down. And Ark of Osiris, obviously not having any resources to use for your healing, or most of these players don't even really have to worry about healing at all in these matches because they have enough troops to get through a whole match, 1 hour match. It's basically worthless. So, yeah.
I wonder, looking at the middle, and Ovi had twice the numbers of Mimi's team here, and a whole bunch of them kind of moved in from the side. I mean, they could have pushed up. They could have contested the 5 or 6 marches that were here with the 10 to 12 marches they had, although now I think it's just waiting for the mid-fight. But I just wonder, like, why get there 6 minutes early if you're just going to look at the other team when you outnumber them, you know?
Yes, I do agree with that. I think I would have probably positioned it a little farther north. But they've proven time and time again that as long as they can just get in one spot, they'll be fine. It doesn't really matter where they're at. They got to come through somewhere, right? So they'll get together in one dot. They'll move as one dot. And I've seen so many times OV look like they're outnumbered on the other side of that arc spawn, and then a minute later after the fighting starts, there's just 50 dots like on one space inside of their little bubble there. So I don't know how exactly they do it that cleanly, but they do it, and it's obviously been pretty effective considering the Roman numeral 2 above their banner.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, Drago and I asked questions about what the team is potentially thinking or doing, or what their strategy is. Obviously every team here that's in the finals has a lot of experience. No moves are by accident. No mistakes are typically committed without some intention of what they're trying to accomplish, So everybody's got a goal with what they're trying to do. And maybe OV is just like, look, man, we're going to build up in the middle. We're going to get there early to make them feel like they have to go middle. And by doing so, we're going to have just this bigger group, relieve some pressure from our structures, and then just take the mid-fight. And now they're moving in.
Man, this Shrine of War in the bottom lane, by the way, as they're moving in, is under assault by OV. Pororo, with his XY rally, is beating this Xeno YSS that is here. In fact, that is a Minna. So XY Minna rally.
Hey, man, Relic Minna's looking real good these days.
Looking very strong. So that's working. And now, again, like you said, OV is positioning the way that they like to position by the temple. Just below it, that's where they're headed. That's their direction. So they want to have a solid base there and then slowly push forward as a unit and then absolutely insta-swarm anything that's coming their direction.
Yeah. Big group fight about to happen. Typically, there we go.
Trajan up front, by the way.
Yeah.
Trajan.
There's the break. War drums. Okay. Is this a to the death arc? Mystical formation? Are they just holding on to points? What are they doing? There's a lot of healing on screen here.
By the way, that's Heaven's Grace.
Yeah, that's definitely Heaven's Grace.
Yep.
Do you know which side used the Heaven's Grace?
I think it's Mimi.
Oh. Okay. Heaven's Grace can be very tide turning. I like that they popped it early because the healing factor from Heaven's Grace triggers off of the number of troops you have. So the sooner you fire that off, the more healing you actually get.
That heal is now over. And I'm not seeing much leave for the OV side, although now we're starting to see a couple trickle out. But I still see more from Mimi going back home, which is not a good look if you're blue team and wanting to secure this arc. Now, I will say there's still a lot of blue players here, and there's the Heaven's Grace moniker that popped up just a
Both
second
sides
ago. But
have
now
used.
now they use
There's
it.
okay. Now OV is using Heaven's Grace. Now that's weird because again, the amount of healing you get is based off of the amount of troops you have because it's a healing factor. So they might just be thinking this is enough to tip us over for this arc.
Yeah, you just need to live. Like it doesn't need to. You don't have.
We
to have
just
a full
need
march.
a little something to tip us over for this arc, and then once we get this arc, then they've got to the death for the next one,
And now you're seeing
then it's going to be
all
pretty
those
fierce.
marches just go back home. Like
I mean, the
everything-
story that I'm starting to build in my head, anyways, around what's happening in this arc match is that OV has got the dominant mid game.
Yeah,
And
always
they're
been the
really
case.
setting the pace of like what skills they want to use and when to capture this arc.
I mean, I see a Mehmed primary from OV. What is happening? What is happening? What's happened with this game? So obviously XY rolling back, untouched really. Doc having that one Mina March, XY Mina March, try and do something, but it was unable to. The buffs are still active for both teams, but OV having a lot more marches left. And again, that Heaven's Grace at the end, again, you don't have to have a full march left over after the fight. You just got to have marches existing after you've killed all the other stuff. And I know that OV is already positioning to take other structures, and Mimi is already starting to try and do the same. But again, it's kind of too little too late. Just go. They've got basically just repeated the first arc.
So I'm going to ask the question I like to ask,
Don't do
Drago.
it. Don't do it.
The question I'm going to ask is, if you're Mimi, what do you do to win from this position?
Well, here's the thing. So they both use Heaven's Grace. They both use 2-point skills with Mystical Formation and War Drums. So they're pretty even on Alliance skill points, which means that if one team can use to the death, the other can as well. So there's your advantage gone when it comes to using to the death, thinking maybe that'll give you at least one of the arcs. The problem is, if you're going to beat OV, you can't lose your structures if you expect to, especially if you can't take the middle. Now, the way that people have beaten OV is that they've held strong on their structures and they've only taken one arc. So, or they took all the arcs and they were just overpoweringly dominating, like a 60 GT or something like that. The problem is Mimi has already, through the first 25 minutes of this match, lost their structures repeatedly. And again, they've taken them back and taken OV structures. But to beat OV's middle dominance, you cannot afford to lose your points per minute. In fact, you need to be generating consistently 100 to 200 points per minute more than OV throughout the entire match. And I hate to say we're too little too late here, but with 27 minutes left, anything can happen, obviously. But with OV being so dominant, clearly dominant in the middle, Mimi has such an uphill battle. They need to not only start to take and keep structures from OV, but they need a little bit of luck thrown their way, and they also need to win at least one, if not two, of those middle arcs.
Yeah. They've got to really get a hold of the altars and keep them. And that means they've got to change something about what they're doing here. And, there are adjustments you can make between matches, like what marches are we using? And there's adjustments you can make in match, which is, hey, where are we going with our troops? And I feel like the marches look about the same. Like, I haven't seen anything too weird. It's about what you would expect, with the exception maybe of an XY Attila is kind of an interesting combination that I'm seeing on the screen. But, there's a few creative combinations out there. But for the most part, I think it's just a matter of getting the timing and syncing right for landing on one of these altars and trying to hold it, which is always an uphill battle when you're on the enemy side of the field.
I mean, I'm scrolling across the map and I'm just seeing literally the same exact play out that did last time. They took the Shrine of War. Mimi took the Shrine of War on the top lane. We'll keep it for a little bit, but OV will grab it back here shortly. OV has the arc and will likely capture it in about a minute or so and restart the timer again. Not that they have to. They could easily just keep it and have one arc be what's left, and it looks like seemingly dominate the middle at will. OV OV already pushing towards their desert altar to counter the Mimi advance on the bottom lane. Mimi pulling back to be more defensive on this rally that's coming in. You have an XY Minna again coming in on that Shrine of Life, or Shrine of War, excuse me. To me, just swarm it halfway down and move on about your day. It's an XY. It's not that Pakal Herald we were talking about earlier. So swarm it halfway down and start to push towards the desert altar. If I was Mimi, keeping that Shrine of War a little bit longer than I thought. There it goes down. Again, maybe 30 seconds or so until this arc gets captured for OV, unless they decide to do the longer play and hold it and go ahead and make this a one arc more match. I think they can do either way and be just fine with what they've got going on and how dominating they've been in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I feel like could have shifted the momentum in this matchup that they were right on the cusp of doing is if they had ported that city in at this obelisk I have on screen. Because it, at 500 plus million power, like, these players have 5 marches out on the field. They don't have a garrison captain set. So even if a player is 120 million power, like, you start swarming them when all their marches are away
right.
and they don't have a captain and they don't have gear on it.
Right.
And, 500 million power, man, that's a lot of troops. Or the damage you could cause where you force the team to either be using healing speed ups or to make them defend their obelisk. Right? They just keep swarming it over and over with their 5 marches would be reasonable. That's the only thing that I feel like that happened this matchup that with their exact same game plan that the Mimi team had, maybe could have been interesting, but I still don't think it's a tide turner. Do you? Maybe?
Not a 6,000, 7,000 point tide turner, no. I mean, who knows? Who knows what could have happened? Coulda, shoulda, woulda situation. All I know is OV is absolutely dominating the middle, and that's where big chunks of points are being scored on their side. Now, I will say they are holding it longer than I thought. We're at 8 minutes, 20 seconds left on the timer for the arc, and they, OV has more than reset themselves. They're already starting to push heavily on taking the top lane structures from Mimi. In fact, this desert altar is looking suspect at best for Mimi to contain control of that on the blue side. And even the Shrine of Life on the top lane, even with just a rally and one swarmer, could do some damage. Mimi being on full defensive, and they have to be. I mean, it's full attack. It's full attack from OV all over the place. They're towards the Shrine of War on the bottom lane. They still own the arc at 7 minutes, 40 seconds. I think they're probably going to, at this point, and of course, as I say this, they're probably going to instantly cap it. But at this point, maybe they will go ahead and keep it this time and make this a one arc match. And again, with one arc's worth of points, if OV continues to do what they're doing, it's just not going to be enough. 4,500 or 4,000 points is not going to be enough for Mimi to make the difference unless they've been keeping 10 people on the back lines provisioning.
Yeah. I'm highlighting a Pakal rally that's kind of off to the side here. Mm-hmm. And then part of the reason I'm looking at this is I'm kind of wondering, okay, is this the right place to be putting a rally worth of troops? I don't know. I obviously don't have the answers, or maybe just have a few questions. But I think that OV is just going for a 3-arc game. And I think that in this last brawl, they want it to be a to the death sort of a situation where they've got a huge lead. And there they cap the arc. So in 8 minutes, the arc is going to spawn.
2 arcs left. Possibly
2 arcs, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. That's probably on purpose, just in case they lose this next one. Gives them a chance to recoup for the final battle. But I will say this, to touch on what you had kind of asked earlier, is that Pakal Herald in the right spot? It could be. The problem is the timing. So again, is it doing anything for you right now? Well, unless you're going to take it, probably not. And here's what OV did that most teams don't do, and it's one of the most basic things, and that's to just kill the rally enough so that it's not going to win. Like, you don't have to swarm the rally all the way down and kill all your marches troops. You don't have to sit there and swarm that thing down, because if you swarm it down, you're giving your opponent their troops back. Whereas with you, if you're the defender, you're already going to have your troops there anyway. And if you're maintaining those 4 or 5 players worth of troops inside that rally, that's 1 march less that they can have on the field that's doing effectively nothing. So you have to have those kinds of plays, and those are just standard OV plays. Those are standard good team plays in general. So seeing that on the field and just seeing it even on a Shrine of Life, which is a perfect example of a place to do it at because it's the most outside of the outside lanes. If you're committing a ton of troops there, you can't go to the middle.
Yeah. In 6 minutes and 45 seconds till we have this mid fight. Actually, 6 minutes, 45 seconds till we have the arc spawn in. The question I now ask is, do you think that OV is going to go middle at the 6-minute mark again? Worked last time.
Ask me in 30 seconds.
Ask me in 30 seconds.
I think
we'll find out. Don't hold your breath.
Just because I'm already seeing it. I think they will. They're already going at the top lane to the middle. And they're able to do that because Mimi was not able to pressure that Shrine of War as much as they did normally last time. So the people that were there to reinforce / swarm the swarmers or swarm the rally are effectively just moving on to the middle. I mean, we got to go that way anyway. 6 minutes left. Here we go. Everybody's going to the middle for OV. So
yeah,
there we go.
They really do have that early arc timing down, which I think is a great idea. Better early than late.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting, I think you pointed it out earlier, like it's so interesting. People that plan these strategies for these teams, they're like, we got to get there early because we need to be positioned correctly and we need to be in front. You know, speaking of which, Mimi going very early as well. We got to get there early so we can position ourselves correctly and get in front of that arc so that it's hard for them to go through our buzzsaw, so that by the time they get to the arc carrier, they're already half health, and then we pop our buffs and everything's great. OV's like, I just want to be in like the general neighborhood, you know, but I'll still come at 6 minutes. It's fine.
Catching a few marches out here.
Yep, I see that.
Whoops. Happens to the best of us when you're in multiple places, you know?
Ethelfled, not long
Although,
for this world.
If more folks were watching here from Mimi, I think they really could have made a meaningful push.
Yeah.
It's just like 5 marches when it should be 10 to 15.
Mm-hmm. Now, some of the names I'm seeing starting to populate on the screen are Max Tech, Max VIP, Max Everything players. So those won't be as quick to drop, those players, especially if they're being controlled, which it looks like those are. So if they can just get that Ethelfled down and move back, I think that's a win for a little small win for Mimi.
You know, it is and it isn't. This is weird.
I mean, it's taken a lot of time to get
with
that.
4 minutes and 20 seconds till arc spawn, I mean, okay, if they kill the Ethelfled, it'll come back in time for the mid-fight?
Don't kill it. Pull it back. In fact, the
so,
X went down quicker.
Actually, that might work out in favor of OV, just weakening the marches that were here for Mimi and mid and not actually killing them, whereas their marches, sure, they get a trip home. Man, that march, is it really going to be home in 20 seconds? I mean, that's going to be home in 20 seconds, and it'll be back up here in less than 3 minutes.
Yeah. That Ethelfled Trajan was very tanky, man.
What's the deal with Ethel Primary? Do you know? Because I don't know.
I mean, you do get the bonus damage from slowed opponents. You do get that debuff off quicker, which may help the other marches that are surrounding you do the damage. But other than that, I mean, I think that's probably it. You prefer usually Trajan Primary to give the damage bonuses to the secondary commander, but if you're pairing with Ethelfled, I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter. The damage is not why you're bringing Ethelfled. It's the debuffs.
Yeah.
And the slow. Yeah. From the support tree.
It's definitely weird. Like, I thought that Trajan Primary was the way to go, and yet we see Ethel Primary all over the place with Trajan.
In Arc. In Arc, we have to be clear.
In Arc, not in KVK.
Yeah, generally. Not, I mean, there's people out there that do it, but I mean, there's so many different combinations in this game. Not only are they good, but they're good for particular things, but then could be much worse in other things. So a lot of people make their marches for what they're doing. Like we said earlier in the match, Osiris League is not KVK, is not Lost Canyon, is not Sunset Canyon, is not Champions of Olympia, is not. I mean, there's so many things in this game, you know, and there's so many different combinations that work best in one or two of those modes that don't necessarily work best in all the other modes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. 2 minutes, Drago. This will determine if Mimi has a way to crawl back into this one.
Yep.
or if they'll get locked out. And if they are able to do work here, I think it will be very meaningful. But I have a lot of concern about their needing to commit a rally worth of troops and 2 garrison captains to the Desert Altar, plus another march coming in. I mean, it feels like OV is getting Mimi's, their team to sort of commit to the places where OV is not. And so, you know, OV's all in the middle, and yet Mimi has to commit some stuff to this altar to get it back, right? OV's all in the middle, and yet they do have the Shrine of Life. So something's got to be committed there. Or are they... Oh, man, they're going to take the obelisk.
Uh-oh.
Mid-fight's about to happen.
Yep, here it comes. Here come all the skills. I mean, they're coming in from all directions. OV even has some players, Super Shenron up here, attacking the Desert Altar and harassing the middle. And it's a rally. No, I'm sorry. Those are all swarm marches for that Desert Altar, but that could be a devastating behind-the-scenes blow for... OV inflicting on Mimi. Here's to the death. There's Mimi.
There it is.
Casting it.
That's the big play. You got to make moves now.
This could be interesting. I still don't think it's enough.
It's going to have to be. Did OV use to the death as well?
I don't see it.
I don't see it, but I would assume they did.
You know what I do see? I see a lot of Mimi marches just standing there. I don't see them actually swarming anything. And it's not like it was before where you just got to kind of stand in a spot and let the AoEs happen. That's not the way this match is done anymore. You've got to actively fight in the middle. You can't just sit there and wait for AoEs to hit you.
Yeah. Arc is spawned. Carrier's just chilling in the back for OV. Oh, wait. 8 seconds till spawn. Just kidding. Mm-hmm. And folks from Mimi actually did notice that they're in the back just hanging out. Okay.
Yep.
There's the arc spawn. Okay.
I don't see anybody grabbing it yet, though.
No, the clock that I saw earlier, I thought was somebody grabbing it, but it was actually the spawn timer for the arc.
Mimi does have 3 altars, but they are missing an obelisk, by the way.
Oh, they did lose that obelisk. I said that they were going to lose.
Yep.
Wow, that's rough. I mean, everybody's in the middle. It's so frustrating to be teleported right next to a structure. And you can't do anything about it because all 5 of your marches are in the middle 5 minutes away, right? Like, okay, not 5 minutes, but you get the idea.
I just... the OV marches are just so tanky.
Who's winning this mid-fight, man?
It seems kind of even right now, but I will say it's starting to turn red very quickly. And the problem is, I think, again, like you've got all those marches dying on the Mimi side. And OV's got just like, look at all those marches that have a sliver of health for OV. It's just enough. It's just enough.
Just enough. There goes the carrier for OV.
Mimi taking the OV obelisk as well.
It's going to be Minamoto making his comeback. Crawling his way out of the temple area. And with that, OV has secured the temple.
Now, the obelisk is a different story. 1 minute on the bottom lane for Mimi, possibly holding it. But, I mean, I do see Shang-Chi and a few other players here, Slouty, swarming this obelisk. Looks like it's going to go down. Was hoping to see a little bit of BM there at the end. Maybe somebody porting in and just starting to hit some cities because they know they've lost at this point. But, you know, otherwise, it looks like OV has started to consolidate the map again. Only one structure is blue besides obelisks right now. That's the Shrine of War in the bottom lane. Everything else is red.
Look at that. Man. OV with all 4 altars and the shrine.
Yep.
Oof.
Yep. It's looking very solid for OV here at the end. 11 minutes left until the match is over. It's a 10,000 point game plus another 4,000 coming back with that third captured arc for OV. And again, I mean, this is the last arc, I think, is what it's going to be. So that'll be it.
Yeah, wow. I mean, at this point, yeah, even if they cap the arc, there's actually not enough time for it to respawn and walk it. Plus, it's not even able to be capped right now. So, final arc in OV's hands. Now, let's just dream up a scenario where things go completely sideways, okay? Just, you know, play this game with me. So, what if They ambush the carrier somehow, take the structure the carrier was going to, and score the arc there. Still, Mimi wouldn't have enough points, would they?
They would still be down by 6,000 points.
Ugh, man.
So the only scenario that you can come up with is everybody on the OV team disconnects. Right now. Like right now.
Okay.
It would have to be right this second.
So if they all lost internet, and then Mimi swept in, took all the structures and the arc, you're saying they could win?
There's a shot.
Okay.
I'm not even saying it's a guaranteed victory.
Okay.
I guess
that's that's kind of rough, huh?
They would have to go through all the marches that are already in the building. I mean, because you think about it, right? So all the structures on the map is like 1,100 and some change points, right, per minute. We've got 9 minutes 30 seconds left, so they'd have to march all the way to the structures to actually take everything, kill all the troops inside those structures, and then start to occupy. So you figure that would take about maybe 4 minutes. So maybe 6 minutes worth of 1,000 points per minute. That's 6,000 points. But they'd have to capture the arc now too. Now, if OV captures the arc right now, then even that wouldn't do it, because that's another 4,000 points they would need to find somewhere, and it just wouldn't be enough.
Wow.
So OV
Mimi's
basically
got the
secured
altar, so that's good. And the arc?
I mean, OV's still marching it.
They could break the rally, take the arc,
take all the structures.
I don't know what they do with it. I don't know.
Yeah. As soon as this arc is captured by OV, even an act of God would not stop them winning the match.
Okay.
Yeah. So the questions of what can possibly there's no.
I know I'm like 45 minutes late to this observation. However, earlier when you had said, like, hey, I noticed there's some people that haven't teleported on Mimi's team, but they have these teleports.
Yep.
You know why I think that is? I think it's because they weren't expecting to get the enemy obelisk. And taking an enemy obelisk, if I'm not mistaken, grants you a bunch of teleports.
2 points. 2 teleports.
Ah. So maybe they had a couple extra teleports. I guess that doesn't explain 5 people being back there, does it?
No, and, again, it's easy for you and I, right? We're just sitting here staring at the screen and talking our butts off and, coming up with some things to entertain the crowd and try to describe the strategy here. Very, very simple tasks. I think we have a pretty cake job. These guys are doing 5 things at once, and seeing exactly what's happening at any given time is very difficult, especially when you don't expect, like you said, you don't expect to take that. You don't expect to take that obelisk, and they only had it for maybe 5 seconds. I mean, it was literally, they would have just gotten those 2 extras and called it a day. They immediately lost the obelisk. So if you sneezed or you turned your head for just a second, you wouldn't have seen it.
Wow. Yeah, it was a very short capture. Just watching this battle for this Shrine of War.
Yep.
Xeno captain, man. What captains have you been seeing? I feel like, look, this is a Xeno Theo.
I've seen mostly Jadwiga for most of the stuff. So Jadwiga YSS has been what's been holding things.
Yeah.
And then obviously Xeno YSS, Xeno Theo, but mostly Jadwiga. It was the anti-swarm that Jadwiga brings. I've seen some woos as well, but they haven't really been super effective. That's obviously like old school, season 2 type stuff. But but still, I mean, I'm seeing Animanatori right now holding the forward structure, but going down very quickly. There's just so much cav out there right now. With Minna getting the boost from the museum that he's gotten, Animanatori and really the archers in general have really taken a big hit with the new changes, not only to the museum, but also the upcoming commanders that are coming into the game that are cav. Oh my goodness. Archer gang just got a huge smack with these new commanders. Now, it doesn't mean that they're invalid, but it definitely means that they're not as OP as they used to be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I am hyped for the new cavalry commanders that are on their way into the game. Yeah. I do wonder how much it's going to shift the Ark of Osiris League meta mid-league. Man,
I guess it depends on when they come out, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're right. We can only speculate. My speculation would be it's the next mightiest governor, which means, a couple
weeks.
For some of the top fights, man, it's going to be a new meta.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. I mean, the people that are generally, I mean, just generally speaking, right? So the players that are going to be in those matches are usually the ones that can, I don't want to say afford, but can take the necessary steps to max out a commander like a Nevsky, or even the new French commander, coming out, that he could do some damage too. I mean, even though he's not maybe as good as Nevsky, I think he's still pretty solid, and I think he beats out a lot of other Cav commanders out there. So those two commanders coming out could definitely make a big splash in this season's Osiris League playoffs. And not to mention, I mean, we're talking about the Invitational, right? Too, the grand finals, that they'll be in there, right? They'll be in there. So
Yeah.
I mean, they're definitely going to play a role in this season's league. It's just a matter of is it going to be that demonstrative for Nevsky to be so destructive on the field? Let's see. Let's wait and see.
There's definitely a balance of maxing as many commanders as you can to do better in League versus hoarding the sculptures so that you can get into the new meta when it arrives at the tail end of League. But I think you're right that the kind of folks that are advancing that far along,
that's not an issue for them.
they've got more sculpture velocity, probably, right? They're getting sculptures a lot faster, based on probably the way that they're playing the game, but also probably are doing a non-trivial amount of hoarding, getting ready for these new commanders to show up.
I know that's what I've been doing. I'm sitting on almost 2,000 each.
2,000 gold heads?
Yeah, just wait. Hey,
this guy. I thought I got 1,300. That's a lot of gold heads.
Oh, I mean, I'm not maxing Charlemagne,
Okay, hey, just because I did a card king for Charlemagne, all right? Oh my gosh.
No, I hear you. And again, it's just the caliber, right? I mean, 1,300 is, I think, pretty much 99.9% of the people on this cast would kill, everybody in their immediate vicinity to get those 1,300 gold heads. So let's not be too crazy about it. But I will say, I mean, congratulations to OV for taking the second victory for their group. 3 minutes left in the match or so. Going to the middle, by the way, even though it's not real. I'm sorry, swarming down to the Sky Altar. If you want to go in the bottom lane Sky Altar, you want to see a big wave of red. That'll definitely work. That's something to watch. But everything turning red again because OV is, it's funny to say this, they're going JWM mode. They're just moving with big marches and swarming everything. And I'm still just, the season feels different without having JWM being in the conversation, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we've come full circle talking about teams migrating.
Yep.
Right? Some teams seem to be going to younger realms in order to have a competitive advantage with players that are less experienced and also to bring their better equipment and commander depth. But then also a concentration of top players into a smaller number of kingdoms that then have multiple teams make it into this playoff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so last season, right? We saw 60 GT take the whole thing, the grand finals, and we saw 4 champions in 4 different realms. We have those same 4 realms, but the teams are different. We've got teams who are in Realm of Anubis that are now in Horus. We've got teams who are in Sobek that are now in Anubis, which is 2 realms prior. So, I mean, you've got some major movement here when it comes to some of these teams who thought they were in one realm and are now in another. And, when it comes to Osiris League, again, that's what we were talking about earlier in the game. You got to kind of decide, is this what you want to do, or do you want to be heavily focused on KBK? There's not many teams that are in this game that are doing both effectively, at least from a making KBK super competitive standpoint. Now, you can certainly have KBK wins and be a top tier Osiris League team, but how are those KBK wins coming? How many allies are you having to get that victory and all that good stuff? That's obviously to each team respectively, but I look forward to seeing what OV can do as they continue their push to three-peat. We're talking about the first dynasty when it comes to Osiris League championship teams. I'm looking forward to seeing if they can pull it off. They've got the players, they've got the strategy, and they certainly got the hardware to do it. And but I will say they've got some competition. There's some teams that could easily take the cake and win the whole thing. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this thing continues to play out. Love casting with you, Chisco, and had a blast last cast with Bulbaritos. And make sure everybody on the chat hits that thumbs up button, hit the like button, hit the bell notification. Make sure you get all the latest and greatest content from the official Rise of Kingdoms channel, which is what you're watching right now. And we're sponsored content creators for said Rise of Kingdoms, so make sure you check in the description and go check us out, all the content we're bringing to you guys for this very match. And yeah, man, looking forward to seeing this thing as the victory unfolds.
There it is. Victory for OV. Congratulations to them. Pororo Jerry from OV with an individual score of 219,212 is a very high individual score, with his mascot being Gaius Marius. Let's go. Oh, man. Gather that food, baby. And OV with the victory, 10,500 points from the Arc, 30,601 for occupation score, almost a 7,000 point lead on occupation score, 8,000 point lead, a lot of points in there. Provision score in favor of Mimi, impressive provisioning, 1,100 more, but obviously not enough to offset the difference. And the kills also kind of tell the story. Down by about 7 million kills. Mimi is, I think, doing a little bit more healing, but more importantly, did not have quite as much control over the combat there.
You know, looking at this battle report, you know, 7 million total kill difference is really negligible when you think about it, especially considering when you're looking at the occupation and the Ark of Osiris score so dominating by OV. How did that happen? Like where was the fighting to make it that close of a total kill? I mean, again, dominating in the middle with less troops, it seemed, was OV. And then on the open field, I didn't really see OV fighting much on the open field. They were only swarming structures. So, I mean, the kills that they got were all structure and middle based. And that's all you need. When you see almost a 8,000 point is a more accurate description. Occupation score bonus for OV, and then 10,500 Ark of Osiris is obviously what you want to see against a 0 number on the other side. 1,000 point difference on provisioning in favor of Mimi. I don't think that was maybe more than 1 or 2 marches difference. So it wasn't that. That was definitely not, you know, Mimi's loss if you look at it that way. It was just OV dominating where it needed to dominate. So, I mean, again, congratulations to OV for another win there. Mimi taking their second loss really needs some help to continue on in the group that they're in because of how harsh that group is. But looking forward to seeing if they can pull it off. And wow, what a great cast.
Yeah, this was really fun. What I want to do now is jump back to the caster's booth. You can see our beautiful faces in just a moment here, and then we'll wrap up the stream, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
A tough match, but very fun to watch. OV versus Mimi, the 2-time champion, putting in the work. And I think with 2 wins now, Mimi's in a spot of trouble because I don't know that they can advance. And OV has probably locked up their ability to advance, although they do have one more battle that they need to do. Drago, we're going to be back at, well, I'll be back at 19 UTC. I think this is your final cast for the day. But later today, we'll be casting. I'll be casting with Bulbaritos. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do so you don't miss when we're casting later today. Throw a like on the stream if you had a good time. And as Drago mentioned, the link's in the description for our channels if you want to check that out, where we provide Rise of Kingdoms content designed to help you get value and smash your enemies. Any final thoughts, Drago?
Sitting here staring at my bets, and I'm very upset. Okay, so final thoughts. Again, great match that we were able to watch. I mean, you know, was it close at the end? No, but we got to see what a really solidly executed strategy for Osiris League and Ark of Osiris looks like. And we also got to see what it looks like to be on the other side of that. And there's been teams that we've seen on this very channel that have absolutely crumbled 10 minutes into that exact strategy. So kudos to Mimi for keeping it interesting, and just the middle fight is really where OV has dominated. In every season, we've always said, oh my goodness, OV's unstoppable in the middle.
Yeah.
And then one team comes along, They're like, not quite unstoppable. We're going to go ahead and try and do some things here, and they get beat in the middle. So something to continue to look forward to as we push along. And yeah, always a pleasure casting with you, my friend Shiskel, and certainly everybody in the stream. Looking forward to seeing you guys back at 19 UTC. I won't be here, but I'll be here in the chat and spirit and watching the match with you guys. And wow, always fun.
Nice. Cheers, Drago. We'll see you all at 19 UTC. Good game, well played, and good luck in your ARC matches. We'll see you real soon, everybody.
Stand up, don't drown in the dust. The land of the sand ones a prize on your hand. Hold tight, don't lose your way.